Welcome, and thank you for joining me again. For the last approximately a week, I have been largely living with a PowerMac G3 blue and white. And this is going to wrap up where I'm at with that project. Won't wrap up what I do with the blue and white, but anyhow, let's report. Um, the question that goes along in this series is, can you use X computer as your primary computer? And in this case, well, come on now. It's a 21-year-old machine. It's got some serious limitations. I do want to focus more thought on what the computer can do as opposed to what it can't do. Because the things it can do, it does perfectly well, and I've been very, very happy with it. I have done upgrades. I've upgraded the RAM. The maximum it will take is 1 gigabyte, and that's what it's got. There's been a struggle with storage. Being a revision 1, aka revision A, logic board, try as I might, I cannot get more than one 120 gig SSD to be recognized. I tried using a 2-drive IDE ribbon cable. That didn't work. I tried 2 different PCI controller cards. That didn't work. Now I am going to have to try at some point using one or both of those controller cards in another Mac just to see if the cards just don't work, or if maybe something with the blue and white. I don't know. I did discover that a FireWire drive plugged in will work, but you cannot boot from it. However, to add extra storage, that's relatively simple, just using FireWire. I put a PCI card in, adding 2 USB ports, USB 2 ports, 2 FireWire 400 ports, plus a third FireWire 400 port, which is internal. So you can mount a FireWire drive internally. But as I say, you can't boot from it. I am a little concerned about the machine. The built-in FireWire 400 ports do not work. And as I was working with it, the 3.5 headphone jack stopped working. So the only sound I'm getting is from the internal speaker, which is fine for what I'm doing with that machine. That's probably enough talking about it right now. I think the big thing we need to do now is to get to the machine itself and see exactly what the things are, where it does struggle in today's world, and where it does function perfectly well. All right, so we'll be right back. Booted up into OS X Tiger on the blue and white. Yes, here we are looking at a black screen with some reflection off it. Let's get the experience of booting up the blue and white. So obviously booting into OS X Tiger. The 2 boot options are OS 9.2.2 and 10.4.11. And there we are. So the 3 drives you see here: Tiger, Mac OS 9. These are both partitions of the 120 gigabyte IDE SSD, a 20 gig partition for OS 9, and the remainder for Tiger. All right, take our quick look at about this Mac. Well, things are often not quick on this machine. And there it is. So 10.4.11, 350 megahertz, PowerPC G3, the 1 gigabyte of memory. Look at System Profiler. I don't know if there's really anything in here we need to see. Power Mac 1,1. Here's where we started out. All right. Okay, the two FireWire buses, the two internal ports, I say internal, the two built-in FireWire 400 ports are on one bus. That's up here. This bus here is the PCI card that I add, so there's a second FireWire bus, and that's the drive that you see in there. All four slots are populated with 256 megabyte DIMMs, making the total of 1 gigabyte. Yes, again, the two USB buses. These are the built-in 1.1, and this would be the PCI card. All right. In ATA, we have the DVD-ROM. It's not a burner, but it does cope with DVDs, which is a good thing, and the IDE SSD. All right. As I pointed out in the intro, I believe, you can get additional storage quite easily from the use of FireWire, even though the built-in ports appear to be non-functional. The card is working very, very well. But unlike what I found with G4 Macs, you can't boot from it. I tried installing OS 9 on that very drive that's there. It installed, everything went smoothly, but it just wouldn't boot into it. Okay, now, as far as programs here, the VLC Media Player, Core Player, Print Shop. We've seen Print Shop in an earlier video. We can take a look here. As I've said many times, I used this all of the time when I was teaching. That's what makes the programs, flyers, banners, all kinds of things with this. All right. Now, in order to close this out, we have to actually select a project. And there's our project ready to be created. And it works very well. It's quite snappy. You do have to mount the disk image for it to have access to its built-in art, but that's not a huge problem. You can get images from the internet and use them, import them into your projects. All right, we have iMovie, iPhoto, GarageBand. Now that's the iLife suite minus iDVD. iDVD would not install because there is no DVD burner. So it would have been essentially useless. And this, I believe, is iLife 03. I tried to install 06, which I installed successfully on the Sawtooth, but that would only install on G4s. So this was the version that I could get. Skip ahead here. NeoOffice, your basic office productivity. Neo takes a while to load, but then again, it kind of does my Mac Pro too. Not this long, to be sure, but and there's the splash screen. And we should get a blank word processing document. Anytime now. Oh, there we go. Finally came up. And okay, we finally get a cursor. Type some gibberish. Man, is it slow. Okay, let's see if now that it's loaded up a little bit more. Okay, now it's caught up. You just have to be patient, with this old machine. And this program is kind of a stretch for it, to be sure. But once it does get fully loaded, it starts to work like any other word processor. And of course, you can also do spreadsheets, presentations a la PowerPoint. There is a drawing program in this and a database. You can create HTML documents. You make business cards. You have various templates you can work with. It's quite a capable office suite. Even though it is kind of a stretch for this machine, it does work. All right, we'll quit Neo. I don't want to save this now blank document again. Now, I'd like to look to see if you can install options. The primary option on other machines has been iWorks. There is no version of iWorks that will run on this machine. Unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So the only other option is Microsoft Office, but this is 2001, and it runs only under Classic. I'll start up Word. Once you do that, the Classic environment has to start up. This is, of course, the emulation layer, which allows you to run OS 9 programs within OS 10. Of course, this is not even Word booting up now. This is the Classic environment that's got to get started. See, basically, you've got a kind of stripped down version of OS 9 running inside of OS 10. Okay, and now it crashed. Quit System Profiler. Oh no, it's still running. I guess I'd left System Profiler open, and this is strange. Start a new blank document, and this actually is quite a bit snappier than Neo. We won't save that. And of course, you've got Excel, you've got PowerPoint, Entourage is in there too, but I don't even know that it still works. All right, continuing to move that way, system preferences, of course. QuickTime Player. iCal. It does work, but this version of Mac OS X will not connect to iCloud. iCloud, of course, was not even a thing at that point. iTunes. I also don't know for sure whether it works. The address book does work, but again, it will not sync. All right, now we've got 10-4-Bird, which, just like on the Sawtooth, is a very capable email program, but it also chews up system resources, so it takes a while to load. Yes, working with this machine in 2020, you do learn patience. Okay, so, yep, we're booting up now. And we see we have an email that has come in. I'm not going to look at it. It's probably just junk, but no point in revealing that. But all of the email accounts are in there. 10-4-Bird, as the name would suggest, is sourced from Thunderbird. Oh, we've had a couple more come in on another account. So, as I say, it works. And another one. It works very, very capably. And once you've got it loaded up, you can deal with your email very, very, very well. Now, the one thing, on a modern computer, what I will tend to do is open my mail program, usually Apple Mail, and just leave it open all the time that I'm working the computer, so that when messages come in, I'll see them come in, I'll be able to address them quickly. You can't do that on this machine, because any one program eats up too much of the system resources. So you can imagine, you saw how long it took to load NeoOffice. If I were to try to work in NeoOffice while running 10-4-Bird, that would not work well. All right, we'll close out of that. So the big weakness of this machine is dealing with the internet. There's one thing I want to point out here. You notice here there's an app store. That's not the app store, of course. That simply didn't exist during the time of OS X Tiger. But there is an enterprising developer who has put together an app store of sorts for the PowerPC Macs. So we'll open that up. And here it is. You've got a variety of things you can check out: utilities, productivity, internet applications, sound, Spotify. I wonder what that would do. Well, Audacity is actually a pretty good audio player. I have not installed it at this point. All right, video programs, graphics, add-ons and plugins. I mean, there's a variety of games. And there's a few in there. Now, if you happen to be working on a PowerPC Mac of your own, and you want to check out this app store, it is a handy thing. Oh, look at that! And checking for updates to the app store. Well, maybe we should do that. Already the latest version. Okay. Anyway, if you manage to get 10.4 Fox installed, launch 10.4 Fox and search for PPC App Store, all one word, the first link that should come up is a WordPress page where you would be able to find this application. A cool little thing, and I was glad to run across that. All right, now, I did find, and that was courtesy of the App Store, a version of WebKit that would run on Tiger. The WebKit that I had been using was Leopard only, in fact called Leopard WebKit. The big thing about WebKit was it played YouTube videos much, much better. But it simply crashes when you go to YouTube now. 10.4 Fox appears to be the more capable browser, but it's good to have options. I haven't really run across a whole lot that 10.4 Fox will not open. Well, Patreon, but that's really about the only one. Again, it takes forever to load up. But once it loads, it's not bad. It will go almost anywhere that you might want to go. It will go to YouTube. It doesn't play YouTube particularly well. I don't know that we need to look into going to a lot of pages in the internet. Some work very, very well. Things like Macintosh Repository, Macintosh Garden open up very quickly and are very responsive. A lot of modern sites are almost impossible. Probably among the worst are social media sites, which are intended to be interactive, of course, and most of that interactivity is the result of JavaScript, which is a nightmare to 10.4 Fox. It does it, but it can be very slowly. But I'm going to show you a trick. Oops, wrong menu. If we look in the 10.4 Fox preferences, and I forget how I've left this set up. Okay, and go down here to the bottom menu. Aha! I had always set it up like this. iOS, Safari, iPad. So what's going to happen with that user agent string selected? You will get mobile sites. If you run across any website where JavaScript, you're getting a lot of JavaScript errors, the site is just incredibly slow, the mobile site will usually work better and allow you access to most of the content. Now I'm going to switch it back to the 10.4 Fox default. In most situations that behaves the best. There are a couple of other Firefox. You can forget the Internet Explorers. Android Chrome doesn't really work that well. So in my fairly limited experience, either I usually leave it on this. I was experimenting with it last night and I had switched it. All right. And of course, I'm going to close out of 10.4 Fox the question, YouTube. The short answer is, you've got to be kidding. But the long answer, 10.4 Fox will go to YouTube. There is a utility in there called the 10.4 Fox box, in which you create an instance of 10.4 Fox that is slaved to one site. That strips things down considerably, and you can get things running much better. I have created such a Fox box, as they call it, called YouTube Box. We'll open that up now. Oh, YouTube too. I was experimenting with different configurations here. The trick of using a mobile user agent string does nothing for YouTube. You can actually get to YouTube. It opens up pretty quickly, but it won't play any videos. It just throws up errors saying that your browser can't read the video format. All right. Isn't this fun, though? Patience is the key. And here we go. We're almost there. I think you can get the picture here from just how long it's taking the main page to load up, what playing a video is going to be like. So rather than going through all of that and taking up more of your time, the videos will load, and if you stop them and let them preload, they kind of run. It's a very slow slideshow. Okay, here we go. It's a very, very slow slideshow. The audio does play, but even that, even if you spend 10 minutes letting the video preload, it'll play for maybe 2, possibly 3 minutes, then stop, then start again, then stop, and very, very frustrating. So I am going to close out of that. All right, now one of the interesting things that you may have seen here in dealing with office productivity, Word actually opened faster than NeoOffice. That being the case, it's going to behave a whole lot better if we just boot into OS 9. And that's generally what I've discovered here. And I think I'm going to do a separate video on OS 9 applications running in the classic environment as opposed to when actually booted into OS 9. So let's open up System Preferences, start up disk, OS 9, and we'll restart. Everything happens slowly on this machine. But the key is, it does happen. I think that's a big key. Okay, I'm going to have to adjust the screen. Okay. Okay, and there's the control strip. All right, so here we are booted up. We've got the Mac OS 9 partition, the Tiger partition, is also available there. Here's that Crucial SSD plugged into FireWire. It's appearing down at the bottom because it's simply taking a while for the FireWire to become active. All right. Okay. Now let's open Word here. Okay. This is what I was expecting. That didn't open up. You can see already just how much quicker it is. All right. And responds to typing instantaneously, sort of like you would expect your computer to do. Much, much, much better when booted into OS 9. No, we don't want to save a blank document. Print Shop, much the same. Now, the Print Shop on OS 10 was an OS 10 native app. There's essentially no difference between those two versions. I don't know why this opens in such a huge screen, but you can see how quickly that redraws. Everything you do on this machine, it's just so much snappier and responsive when you're actually booted into OS 9. Whether you're dealing with apps that are native OS 9, OS 10, they're two separate print shops, much, much more responsive on OS 9. As I said, I'm going to do a separate video. Where this kind of falls down the internet. ClassZilla, I am very grateful ClassZilla exists because you can do things. You can get to the sites where you'll find applications, installers, games, all kinds of things archived, notably Macintosh Repository and Macintosh Garden. And it goes there and it interacts with them perfectly well. Anywhere else can be an adventure. I think in a previous video I had at the OWC site and ways to get around it. There is a mail component to ClassZilla, which has its eccentricities, but it does work. So you can check your email. It generally, what it can do, it's a lot snappier than 10.4 on OS 10. It's just very, very much more limited. So, to wrap things up here, as I say, I do want to do a little bit more of an in-depth look at booting into OS 9 as opposed to running in the classic environment, and why booting into OS 9 is always the better option if that option is available. But that will leave for another video. For the purposes of this, as long as you don't get on the internet, OS 9 is the answer. Everything runs so much more smoothly and so much more quickly. I think that's great. If you need to access the internet, your best bet would be to reboot into Tiger, where you can use 10.4 Fox, where you can use 10.4 Bird. That's for the most part functional. Slow, yes, but functional. So in that sense, really you can do all sorts of things. You know, this machine is old and it's slow, and particularly as a Rev 1 logic board, awfully limited. I think what I'm going to do, I had wanted to put more storage under this machine. That's why that Crucial SSD in the enclosure is there. Since I can't put other operating systems on it and use that as a boot drive, I don't think I really need to have 512 gig of extra storage on this machine. The 120 gigs for what this machine is going to do will be plenty, so I'm pretty sure I will just repurpose that. Now, I'm not done with this machine. In the one that arrived, that was dead on arrival, there is a zip drive. At some point, I'm going to take that zip drive out of that machine and put it in this one. I don't really know why, but hey, it's there. I might as well get it into a place where it could be used just in case. And there's one other thing to take a look at. Pick this up on eBay. You may recall my mentioning that the CPU on these machines comes on a daughter board. This is a CPU daughter board. It should function on this machine. And that little processor there, that, assuming the seller was accurate about this, is a 500 megahertz G4. Now, what that is going to do to this machine, yeah, it probably still will not stand up with the 450 megahertz sawtooth, but it would make a considerable difference. I have other projects, so it'll be a while before I get to that. Next up is going to be the Quicksilver that I introduced, I think it was last week. I have some upgrades to do on that. There'll probably be a video specifically on those upgrades. Pending how those upgrades go, I'll have to install some operating systems because the machine doesn't have a hard drive in it right now. But that all remains to be seen. But that's going to be the next major project. For now, we're going to say goodbye to the blue and white. I won't. It's going to sit here, and I'll be using this as my OS 9 gaming machine, which proving to be an awful lot of fun. Once again, as always, thank you so much for joining me and for your kind attention on this. I hope you have enjoyed this look into the blue and white, and we shall see you as I record the next project. Take care.